Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, it's kind of a remarkable development during the past few days, namely that we're suddenly talking about something that we didn't think we'd be talking about, namely Trump apparently has a peace plan, a Gaza peace plan that he is about to put forward to Benjamin Netanyahu, whom he will meet at the White House on Monday. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is currently in the United States. He arrived on Thursday,
How
and
many times this year?
this is his fourth visit. I think this is his fourth. I may be wrong. Maybe it's his fifth, but
I think it's
it's at
four.
least
Yeah.
his fourth. Um, so he arrived on Thursday and he spoke at the United Nations General Assembly this morning. And just want to show you what what took place when he spoke. And I think that's quite nice. Uh, so here it is.
It's unfortunate we can't see the delegate, what countries are staying.
Well, not too many. I mean,
Not too many.
the chairs, these are empty chairs. I mean, um, and let's watch it again.
By His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of the State of Israel. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Yeah,
Please,
this is the
order
clip I
in the
saw.
hall. Please, order in the hall.
Just have this order in the hall. It's almost like
Yeah, but we're not getting the audio because George and I talked about this before we went on air, and is that there's clapping going on, but we don't know if this is clapping in defense of Netanyahu or
well,
clapping
I don't know.
or clapping for the people that are leaving. It's very difficult to
It's
determine.
difficult. It's difficult to see, but um, yeah, I'm not sure.
Please, order in the hall.
This is getting very bare, very thin.
Hall.
I mean, look, I mean, there's so many people leaving. They have to negotiate the departure. There are too many people bunched up. Everyone, you're watching, we don't have audio here. This is not calling for a coffee break. Do not mistake that.
You're
Okay.
right. You can't hear this, Peter?
I don't hear any sound from the video, except
Oh,
for the order in the hall or whatever.
Hall.
But
Please be seated.
I hear that.
that's almost empty.
Please, order in the hall.
George, a question to you.
Mhm.
This is not shown on American television.
No, this is I haven't seen that. There was a mention on CNN that there were dozens walked out,
Dozens.
but the dozens, it's a lot more than dozens. There's hardly anyone has stayed.
Well, I mean, it's like 10 dozens or 20 dozens. I
Well,
mean, see,
exactly.
that's deceptive in the English
Well,
language.
exactly, because if you say dozens, that sounds okay. 2 dozen, that's 24. 3 dozen, that's 36. But this looks to be like the overwhelming majority. I mean, it's like, how many have stayed? I mean, it's easy
Well,
to count how many people have
just
stayed.
say, yeah, just doing this here, it looks like 80% left.
I think so. At 80% would have walked out. That's quite a feat. Just that they for that was the essentially international opinion. The people talk about the international community, the world opinion. They say, well, that's your international community, that's your world opinion, which simply says we're not going to listen to Netanyahu. And then Netanyahu delivered his familiar bromides. We're fighting, the enemies of the West. We're fighting America's enemies, and we're fighting anti-Semitism and so on. So exactly what you would have expected from Netanyahu. The what still does seem strange is that he arrives on Thursday, so he speaks on Friday morning, and then he has this meeting with Trump sometime on Monday. Well, he's the prime minister of Israel. That's quite a long trip. So he's spending quite a lot of time here in the United States, and so you have to. What's he going to be doing over the next few
I
days?
can well imagine. Okay.
Exactly. So he's going to be there now. The what had happened. So as you know that uh, we had this big conference on the two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, presided over by France and Saudi Arabia, and they came up with the New York Declaration at 41 points. And we'll take a look at that in a second. But now it's being reported that President Trump has come up with a 21-point peace plan for Gaza. 21 point. I mean, that's quite a peace plan because
He believes in brevity, apparently.
exactly because every time he's asked about Gaza, he only has two things to say, which is
Ask this guy.
that's right. What he says, we've got to get the hostages back. We've got to get our hostages, which is very strange. He keeps referring to our hostages, even though there aren't any American hostages left in captivity. Our hostages,
It's
and then
very much like the Barry Weiss approach. We were attacked on October
yes,
7th. Yeah.
exactly. And incidentally, I should just say that during Netanyahu's address, he talked about our enemies are your enemies, or your enemies are our enemies, and he said, these are the people they celebrated October the 7th, they celebrated the 9/11 attacks, and you think, well, the only people who there's any footage of celebrating the 9/11 attacks were these strange Israeli students with no one
Yeah, the
ever understood.
art students. Yeah.
Art, yeah, art students. They were studying art in New York.
Just to make clear, Fox News had a extensive coverage of these Israeli students. I think they were kept for up to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I can't remember what the timing was
I
that
mean,
they were interrogated. Yeah.
this is it's been completely deleted. I mean, there were only people had individual recordings of it, but it's been wiped from the internet. And because of Tucker's miniseries, it's on Twitter now. Okay, so oh no, that's all that those are talking points. They no, it actually happened,
That's exactly. So
and
if you look,
in mainstream media, it was talked about.
it was talked about. That's right. It was but whatever.
Brit
No,
Hume.
it was Carl Cameron. Carl Cameron wrote those series of articles.
No, but I'm sorry. Brit Hume did the Fox News or ABC News coverage of it.
No.
Okay.
It was the Fox. It was Fox News, but it was Carl Cameron who wrote about this
Okay. Well,
Fox News.
maybe I need to go back to my eye doctor. Anyway,
I mean, Brit Hume worked at Fox News, but it was Carl
I
Cameron's.
saw it this morning.
Yeah, he may have mentioned it. He may have referred to it, but
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
the stories were written
Fine.
by Carl Cameron.
Let's keep it straight. Go ahead.
Yes, but what is that for Netanyahu to come up with that? And you said, then people might think, yeah, but the only recording, I mean, the only recordings anyone ever made as to who was celebrating the 9/11 attacks were these strange Israeli students. And no one ever really kind of got to the bottom if it was the why exactly were they celebrating. But all right,
Well, they
be,
had violated their visa, so they were sent
yeah,
home.
that's right, exactly. But anyway, so we had the plan presented by Saudi Arabia and France, and now Trump has his own 21-point plan, which is quite remarkable because, as I said, all he has ever said is we got to get our hostages out, and he talked about the horrors of October the 7th, which each time he tells the story, it gets more and more lurid. You know, babies being sliced open, babies having their heads cut off, women raped. You know, in other words, he's you know acting as Netanyahu, and on steroids. He's even going further than anything Netanyahu has said. That's the only things he said about Gaza. He said this when he had that news conference with Emmanuel Macron, when he said, well, all I want to talk about is October the 7th. He said, well, because Macron was talking about recognition of Palestine. He said, well, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about October the 7th. That's his go-to mantra. But now, so the media are reporting about this plan. So this was reported. Axios did the most detailed story about this Gaza plan that Trump apparently has discussed with a number of Arab countries. Here is this guy, Barak Ravid. He said
Okay.
Trump's Gaza peace plan gets support from regional leaders. So this isn't even a ceasefire. This is a peace plan. So we're led to believe. And it says President Trump, White House envoy Steve Witkoff presented Arab and Muslim leaders with a 21-point plan for ending the war in Gaza and for post-Hamas governance on Tuesday, garnering positive responses from the attendees. It's the first time Trump has presented a U.S. plan for ending the war in Gaza. On Wednesday, several leaders issued statements praising it. And then, blah, blah, blah. He says Trump noted he's presenting the plan because every day the war continues, Israel becomes more and more isolated internationally.
So that's why we need a peace plan. So Israel isn't isolated. Maybe it's because the genocide should stop. But the stress is all wrong.
Right. Well, I should say incidentally that when Trump was speaking with Macron, and Trump was obviously very frustrated. And in response to Macron explaining why he was recognizing Palestine, he says, "Well, I'm on Israel's side. I've always been on Israel's side." Trump said, which was quite a remarkable statement for an American president to make. I mean, it's like you're supposed to be for America. You're supposed to be on America's side. I mean, but say I'm on Israel's side is a
Oh,
strange thing
and
to say.
maybe to be on the side of peace too.
Yes, that would help. So anyway, here says the main principles. These are the main principles of the Trump plan for Gaza. Release of all remaining hostages, a permanent ceasefire, gradual Israeli withdrawal from all of the Gaza Strip, a post-war plan that includes a governing mechanism in Gaza without Hamas, security force that would include Palestinians, but also soldiers from Arab and Muslim countries.
Oh, so let's to be clear here, a security force. Well, 99% of the time, a security force is armed. So this means armed Palestinians.
They will be answered exactly.
Keep that as a note as we go further. Okay.
Funding from Arab and Muslim countries for the new administration in Gaza and for reconstruction of the enclave. I love this thing of it. Israel kind of reduces Gaza to a complete rubble, destroys everything in Gaza, and then somebody else has to foot the bill. Hey, here's the bill. Here's your check, sir. Now take care of this.
From what I can tell, they're bombing rubble now. Okay, I mean, I'm sure you've seen these high rises come down,
Yeah,
George.
yeah, of course. But I mean, that's sort of nice to stick someone else with a bill for reconstruction. I love it. Notice the United States also isn't saying we're going to foot the bill. There's something, the Arab and Muslim countries, they can foot the bill.
But the American taxpayer foot the bill for the bombs, and the
That's
Arab and Muslim
that's
countries have
exactly
to foot the
for
bill
the
for
reconstruction.
reconstruction.
Now you have to clear the rubble first. That's a huge endeavor in itself, clearing that rubble.
George, as I go to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's a huge factory, big factory. They've been taking it apart for 2 years. Just this one big building.
Right.
It's painstaking because it was part of a demolition, but the number of trucks that must carry all that and that's just something you can see, one whole building. What about the entire Gaza Strip that looks
Yeah,
like that? I mean,
yeah,
that's a decade work,
yeah, yeah,
decade
yeah.
at least, maybe more.
That's right. There's some involvement of the Palestinian Authority, some involvement.
Some, some.
And then it says here, the sources noted that Trump asked the Arab and Muslim leaders for their support of these principles and their commitment to take part in the post-war plan for Gaza. The meeting was attended by the leaders and senior officials from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan. According to two sources, the Arab leaders presented Trump with several conditions for supporting the plan. So here are their conditions. Israel will not annex parts of the West Bank or Gaza.
Too late.
Israel will not occupy parts of Gaza.
Too late.
Israel will not build settlements in Gaza. Israel,
Probably too late. We know that there's settlers have already staked territory by putting their flag down already.
right?
And that was last October, November.
Israel will stop undermining the status quo at the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Too late.
Humanitarian aid to Gaza will immediately increase. And then Trump made it clear to the Arab and Muslim leaders that he would not allow Israel to annex parts of the West Bank. So that's the
How can he say that? How can he?
well,
He's going to be made a fool of again.
well,
Okay.
yeah, but he hasn't said it in public. I mean, that's the important thing. This is Axios saying this is what Trump said to these Arab and Muslim leaders. So there's basically Trump has not gone on record to say I will not allow Israel to annex parts of the West Bank. That's simply Axios claiming that's what transpired in this meeting. Two sources said. Politico reported first on Trump's pledge to prevent annexation. At the end of the meeting, Arab and Muslim leaders expressed support for the American principles and committed to taking part in the post-war plan.
Well, isn't it really interesting? Okay.
Okay, sure.
It's very interesting how we see this um, um, narrative adjustment because for decades, American presidents, at least formally, supported a two-state solution. We don't see any of that here now.
No, I think that's
So,
that's important. This is why there's a difference between this alleged plan because this is simply Axios reporting on this. No one has published this Trump plan. This is Axios, and then we'll take a look. Politico repeats this, as opposed to the New York Declaration, the 41-point New York Declaration, which does talk about the two-state solution. And thus you say Gaza and the West Bank have to comprise the Palestinian state, which is going back to Oslo, which is what that was in the Oslo agreement. But there's no mention here of the of the two-state solution. There isn't even, and this is what's noticeable, there isn't even any suggestion. Well, how do we get, first of all, to a ceasefire? I mean, we can talk about the future. I mean, that's sort of the next step. What's the future for Gaza? But how do we even get there? I mean, what's the mechanism for the ceasefire? Because there was at least in place in January a ceasefire. That there isn't even anything like that here.
well, and also, what in the context of the Trump plan, what is Gaza? Is it a part of Israel? Is it independent? There's no
No,
definition of what Gaza is.
well, that's right. I mean, it's not clear. Um, and then he says in a joint statement, On Wednesday, the leaders of 7 Arab and Muslim countries that attended the summit expressed support for Trump's plan. We reaffirm our commitment to cooperate with President Trump and emphasize the importance of his leadership in order to end the war and open horizons for a just and lasting peace.
Well, that's kind of weak.
That's
Okay,
kind of, yeah, boilerplate.
that's just weak. I don't know what that's supposed to
Doesn't mean
mean.
anything. It's just
Yeah.
boilerplate. Yeah. Um, and um, and then he says Trump told the Arab leaders that the next step is to discuss the plan with Netanyahu at the White House on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So I got to clear it.
I don't know why we're doing this, George.
Well, because it's there. I mean, but why are we doing it? But I just love this thing. Okay, that's great. Okay, all right. Well, at least it's something. At least it's a plan. That yeah, I got to clear this plan with Netanyahu. I mean, imagine it's like somebody offers you, like offers you a great job, and you said, oh, but I got to talk to my boss and clear it with him and see whether he's interested in hiring you. Okay, so what are we talking about? So yeah, I
Well,
got to discuss this with Netanyahu first. And
after it's finalized, the U.S. will have to sell it to Bibi. Well, I think you have to talk to the Israeli Knesset as well. Okay.
yes, nothing that Netanyahu said today would give anyone anywhere any idea that he has the slightest intention to accept any of this. You know what I mean? He presented the same bromides as he always does. Got to crush Hamas, and the usual stuff. And so the idea that he's going to sign off on withdrawal from Gaza, that he's going to sign off on some kind of self-governance in Gaza. As you said, Palestinians armed, the Palestinians would be in charge of security, some role for the Palestinian Authority. He doesn't recognize any role at all for the Palestinian Authority.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way Axios is presented what they claim is Trump's plan, there are preciously few Palestinians in this.
Right, that's right. And then some Arab official says the U.S. outline was good, but needed a bit more refining with input from Arab countries. After it's finalized, the
Jordan,
U.S. will have to
go to the next slide. Okay.
we'll have to sell it to Bibi.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So that the United States will have to sell it to Bibi. So this is the Arab official. Now, these Arab officials are often very diplomatic. They're very smooth. So they say, yeah, after it's finalized, the U.S. will have to sell it to Bibi. Okay, so where are we? And then so here's Politico, which says President Trump promised Arab and Muslim leaders during a meeting on Tuesday that he would not allow Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to annex the West Bank, according to 6 people familiar with the discussion. But as I say, Trump hasn't said that in public. I mean, I haven't heard him say anything like that in public, that he will not allow the annexation of the West Bank. So anyway, but that's Politico says now, Axios saying this according to people familiar with the discussion. 2 of those people said that Trump was firm on the topic.
Firm.
Yeah. And that the president, I mean, Trump is never firm on any topic. I mean,
On any topic.
anytime he speaks, he's always segueing into something else. I mean, so that's the way he speaks. He's never firm on anything. He just talks about what he wants to talk about. But the president promised that Israel would not be allowed to absorb the West Bank, which is governed by the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah, but the West Bank is being absorbed.
Right. Yeah, that's right. But
every passing day.
That's right. And then another one of the people familiar with the talks noted that despite Trump's assurance a ceasefire to end Israel's nearly 2-year war against Hamas was nowhere close to fruition. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. And it's nowhere close to anything, if you go by Netanyahu's speech at the UN. 2 others familiar with the matter said Trump and his team presented a white paper outlining the administration's plans to end the war, including the annexation promise and other details such as governance and post-war security. Now, there's a couple of problems with this. I mean, first of all, Trump has made these kinds of promises before, and they were kind of deceptive. I mean, you had the negotiations with Iran, which were essentially lured the Iranians into a false sense of security. Trump was involved in that. There was the ceasefire his ceasefire that he, along with Netanyahu, then sabotaged in March. And then we had his peace plan, or his ceasefire plan rather, that was being discussed in Doha by Hamas leaders that was attacked by Israel. So there is a real problem here, which is, well, why would anyone sit down and start discussing the Trump plan if it means that you might just get hit
Yeah, I
by
mean,
a missile?
if your location is known, don't go. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And I wouldn't discuss it on a phone either, because they're picking up the signal. They're going to hit you while you're on the phone. Um, so there is kind of that problem there, which is that why would anyone really even start talking about this kind of a
Well, I
plan?
mean, that's not a rhetorical question. I mean, is Trump trying to circle the wagons among his vassals in the Middle East after the attack on Doha? I mean, is this a carrot? I don't think anyone, particularly, I mean, Qatar was at this meeting. I mean, are you serious that we should take your word on this? I don't know. Is this a public relations rollout or something like that? I mean, it seems trivial, George.
Well, it's a very good question. Why now? I mean, it's very odd that we're talking about a Trump peace plan, where in the past he hasn't talked about that, other than his loony Gaza Lago plan of removing all Palestinians from Gaza. Now he's sitting down with these Arab leaders. He knows perfectly well these Arab leaders are absolutely not going to sign off on any removal of Palestinians from Gaza. So he's sitting down with them. And yeah, it's a very good question. What exactly is this about? Because it's hard to take this seriously, particularly as Trump has not gone public. I mean, if Trump had at least gone public and said, "Yeah, here's my peace plan, and I want everybody to get around it and the table to discuss it," okay, then there's something to say. But this is simply media reports on what nameless Arab diplomats who took part in these talks claim was said at this meeting.
Again, I repeat the question. What is Gaza in the context of this
No,
plan?
it's not. It's not. It isn't clear. But
Yes.
certainly, there's no mention here. Anyway, they're not talking about any two-state solution. So this is the New York Declaration that was voted on recently, overwhelmingly, at the UN General Assembly. This is the 41-point plan, and this is much more specific. As you can see here, Gaza is an integral part of the Palestinian state. There's no mention of that in the Trump plan. Governance, law enforcement, and security across all Palestinian territory must lie solely with the Palestinian Authority. Again, no mention of that in the Trump plan. With appropriate international support, we welcome one state, one government, one law, one gun policy of the Palestinian Authority, and so on. Then, of course, it says Hamas, in the context of ending the war in Gaza, Hamas must end its rule in Gaza, hand over its weapons to the Palestinian Authority with international engagement and support. And then we support the urgent implementation of the Arab Organization of Islamic Countries reconstruction plan to allow early recovery and reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. And then following a ceasefire, transitional administrative committee must be immediately established to operate in Gaza under the umbrella of the Palestinian Authority. Again, this is very specific. the Palestinian Authority will be the government of both the West Bank and Gaza. I mean, note that there's no one's having any say. The Palestinians are not having any say in who's to govern them. Whoever we are, the people who drafted this New York Declaration, we will decide that the Palestinian Authority will govern. But at least it's better than the current status quo. So you can say, all right, well, I mean, it's better than nothing. But it's still remarkably arrogant just to declare that, hey, we've declared who is the legitimate authority of all Palestinians. So in other words, no, we're not going to have elections or anything, and decide who should represent the
That's
Palestinians.
right. There's no self-determination
No,
here.
none whatsoever. And then we said we support the deployment of a temporary international stabilization mission upon invitation by the Palestinian Authority under the aegis of the United Nations in line with UN principles. And then this mission, which could evolve depending on the needs, would provide protection to the Palestinian civilian population, support transfer of internal security responsibilities to the Palestinian Authority, provide capacity building for the state, and so on. And then
Yeah, it's if it worked out really well in the West Bank when it comes to the Palestinian
yeah,
Authority.
that's right.
It has, again, when Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank were allowed to vote on their leadership, they voted overwhelmingly for Hamas,
Yeah,
not for the Palestinian
no, they
Authority.
did not. That's right. That's exactly right.
And as far as I know, since 2005, there hasn't been any, excuse me, any elections.
No, that's right. That was the last election. Yeah, that was kind of, I mean, yeah, Hamas won. Hamas won both in the West Bank and in Gaza, but Fatah refused to surrender power, and
Well, Fatah had more guns in the
they
West
had more
Bank.
guns, and so they won. They won the war, and so they basically just divided it up. So Fatah continued to rule in the West Bank, but Hamas ruled in Gaza.
And Netanyahu made sure that Hamas was moneyed
Right,
afterwards.
right, exactly. And then, but it says the implementation of two-state solution with two democratic and sovereign states, Palestine and Israel. And then we welcome President Mahmoud Abbas' commitments on behalf of Palestine expressed in the blah, blah, blah. So that's the New York Declaration. As I say, it's 41 points. This is just a small sampling of what's in the plan. And then now this is all getting very exciting because we've got the Trump plan. Apparently, Trump has agreed to have Tony Blair run Gaza. Whoa, Tony Blair, I'm taking over here. I'm in charge.
Oh, come on, George. Is this the latest iteration of Cabaret? Okay. Tony Blair? Oh my God.
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't I didn't see this.
yes, yes. Washington backing for Tony Blair to head Transitional Gaza Authority. Reported proposal for international body to oversee Gaza for up to 5 years counters UN-backed plan for faster transition to Palestinian rule.
Well,
And
Tony Blair is counting the ways he's going to go to the bank on this one.
well,
Yeah.
he's a very wealthy man. That means the Finn chick who works for Tony Blair, maybe she'll get a gig here. Um, the White House is backing a plan that would see Tony Blair head a temporary administration in the Gaza Strip, initially without the direct involvement of the Palestinian Authority,
Oh
according
my
to
God.
Israeli media.
Oh, so this is the Balfour Declaration all over again. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so bizarre. I mean, the idea of having Tony Blair running Gaza. I mean, the whole
Initially without any direct
right. Oh,
involvement.
exactly. But Laurie, now the Palestinian Authority, that's the New York Declaration. They basically anointed the Palestinian Authority as the legitimate government of all the Palestinians. Trump hasn't done that. Trump refuses to accept the Palestinian Authority. So they said, okay, what do you accept? And for some reason, and I don't know any Trump Tony Blair connection. I haven't. I don't know why suddenly they would pick on Tony Blair. I mean, I don't know, he's yesterday's man or the day before yesterday's man, but he would
Well,
somehow be
it's
the
not
colonial
even
viceroy of Gaza.
exactly, and it's not as if this guy has a reputation of any kind of stature. Okay, I mean, this is one of the most discredited politicians of our age.
Yeah. But
Oh, what do they call it? Gitta?
oh, is that Gitter? Yes, yes, that's a Gitter. Git. Um, Now, but you remember after he retired, so he left in 1990, he left in 2007, then he became the envoy of the quartet. You remember there was the
Yeah.
quartet, which
Yep.
was comprised Russia, the EU, the United States, and the United Nations. So that didn't really do anything. Like all these mediators never really do anything. But that was the quartet. But he was the point man for the quartet. So he didn't do badly after the Iraq debacle. Um, and so now he's suddenly making this comeback. And under the proposal, Blair would lead a body called GITA that would have a mandate to be Gaza's supreme political and legal authority. In other words, they're going to run everything. Whenever you hear the supreme political and legal authority, that means everything. They decide everything
Okay.
without any democratic
Are
accountability.
they designing like a sash for him and a special hat?
I don't
Okay.
think he's even going to be there. It's dangerous. If you're going to be there, I mean, it's more than your life's worth to reside in Gaza.
Well,
I think
for
he's going to be
someone,
residing in London, or
yeah,
he's going to
yeah.
be
I
out in.
mean, for Tony Blair, he must be thanking God for the SWIFT system. Just here's my banking numbers.
Yes, exactly. Now he'll be paid. That no question he's going to be paid, but he's not going to go stay there. Um, but when you have supreme political and legal authority, like all these United Nations or whatever bodies, they have total unconditional authority, and they could just shove you in prison and that's it. And you can forget about any kind of a release. I mean, we saw what happened in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where you have the office of the high representative unaccountable to anyone, and he can just do whatever he likes. Nothing at all whatever restrains him. So that's going to be Blair
Yeah,
in Gaza.
I think he's gonna like this supreme leader
Oh,
thing.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And then, so according to reports in Haaretz and Times of Israel, the plan is modeled on the administration that initially oversaw Timor-Leste and Kosovo's transition to statehood. But Kosovo has no statehood. I mean, that's fraudulent. And that's really the point. I mean, it's just they're going to try and turn Gaza into some kind of a international protectorate. In other words, we're just going to keep it, and then we'll decide what to do with it. I mean, Kosovo has no statehood, so it's a fraud. Bosnia and Herzegovina has no statehood; it's just a permanent international protectorate. The proposal suggests that Gita could at first be based in El Arish, an Egyptian provincial capital near Gaza's southern border. So they're not even going to be based in
And I
Gaza.
wonder if the Egyptians have even been consulted about it.
I,
I don't think.
I don't think Tony Blair is going to hang out here either. I mean, he likes his life in London too much. um, and would eventually enter the territory accompanied um, by a UN endorsed, largely Arab multinational force. So there'll be an Arab multinational
Who's
force
getting
that would accompany them.
a company? Yeah, like chaperones.
Yeah, that's a, yeah.
I mean, largely Arab multinational. Like from what countries?
I, I, I don't know. The moment they start getting shot at, and they will be shot at by Israel, they're going to leave. No, no, they're not going to stay. And that's the point. No, there's not the slightest prospect here of Israel accepting any of this.
The plan envisions the eventual unifying of all Palestinian territory under the PA.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah. Okay.
Under the plan, Palestinians would not be made to leave the country, as had been feared would occur under the previous U.S. proposal to develop it as the Gaza Riviera.
At least they had the guts to write Gaza and Riviera.
That's right, yeah. And then here's the BBC.
Well,
And,
George, go back one real quick here. Well, so under the plan, Palestinians would not be made to leave the territory. That doesn't sound like options to me, okay? I mean, What about the people? What during this whole Gita thing? Where are the Palestinians in all of this? It's
Well, I
it,
mean,
it shows that that there's armchair intellectuals here. I mean, again, this is like Sykes-Picot stuff.
this is,
Okay.
but the point is that with Sykes-Picot is that at least the British and the French had power there. They ran the
Yep.
show.
Yep.
They could sit down and draw up their maps and whatever. Um, Here, you don't have the power.
Well,
So
and where's Israel in
if
all of
Israel does,
this?
exactly, because if Israel doesn't accept any of this, then there's not going to be Tony Blair, there's not going to be Gitta, there's not going to be a multinational force. And as we looked at the previous slide, everything depends on the meeting with Bibi on Monday. And we've had before these meetings with Bibi, when there was a lot of talk about this meeting with Bibi would discuss the Gaza ceasefire plan, and the meeting with Bibi culminated with Trump and Bibi talking about the hostages. And what about the ceasefire plan? No, no, no. Let's just talk about the hostages on October the 7th. So that's why all this. It's kind of we're talking all this, but what's going to happen on Monday? They're going to be talking about the hostages, and they're going to be talking about October the 7th. That's all
The
Trump. That's all
the
Netanyahu talked about at the UN General Assembly.
at the rate things are going, none of these hostages will survive this. None.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And so here's the BBC. It says former UK Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair. I forgot that he's Sir Tony Blair. Has been involved in discussions about leading a post-war transitional authority in
Yeah,
Gaza.
he had his lawyer with him, and before we continue with the discussions, this is how I envision it. So what's it pay?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But you're absolutely right about the what was the Swift? Yeah, the Swift. What is
Yeah, yeah.
the
Okay, and
Swift the Swift number? Yeah, that's where you.
I'll need a extra residence in the center of London.
Yeah,
Of course, the usual motorcade that I expect.
there's always
I need a what's the term I want? I want immunity in advance.
yeah, but there's also here's the problem for Tony Blair. I'm sure, will recall, as I think anyone in Britain recalls, other what happened to other British officials like Lord Moran, who were assassinated by
That's right.
Zionist terrorists. I'm not sure. I mean, they wouldn't hesitate to assassinate Sir Tony Blair if it served their interest. If they believed that it served their interest, they would not hesitate to assassinate him.
Yeah. Do you have a safe house in British Columbia?
Yeah. Um, so that's yeah the proposal, which is said to have backing from the White House, would see Blair leading a governing authority supported by UN and Gulf nations before handing control back to Palestinians. I wonder whose is this proposal? Who drafted this proposal? I mean, like, is there somebody in the White
Can
House?
can you let me have?
I'm drafting it.
Can you
I
give
put
me a guess? Can you allow me a guess?
yes,
Tony
please.
Blair.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I wouldn't be surprised, George. I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I can't see who in the White House will be sitting there. Oh, let me, let me write out this the principles of this peace plan. I mean, it's not going to be Steve Witkoff. It's not going to be Sebastian Gorka. So who's
Well, I think a tell would be we need more transparency from the U.S. government. Has Tony Blair already invoiced the U.S. government for this plan?
That's right. Imagine the Finn chick is sitting here today thinking, "Hey, I'm going to get a big pay raise coming up. I'm really going to be able to have good parties." Um, his office said he would not support any proposal that displaced the people of Gaza. So yeah, I'll take the job, but I'm not going to be held responsible for the displacement of the
Well,
people
I mean,
of
his
Gaza.
office said he would not support any proposal that displaced the people of Gaza. Well, I mean, Israel can support it, but he doesn't.
Yes, he does it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I mean, do you see how ridiculous this verbiage is? Oh, and he didn't support it. Well, of
Right.
course not. But if he took the job and it happened, would he stop it? Is the
Right.
question.
Um,
Oh, George, this ruins my day. I mean, talking about Tony Blair again. Oh my God.
yeah, this caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting this one. But this just came up today. In August, he joined a White House meeting with Trump to discuss plans for the territory. So it was in August. This already started in August, which U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff described as very comprehensive, though little else was disclosed about the meeting. I'm beginning to see where Blair comes in. Peter Mandelson. I mean, he had been ambassador when I think since February or March or whatever. And he obviously gets on well with Trump. Mandelson's very smooth like that. He knows how to get on with people. So probably Mandelson put this idea into Trump's mind. Hey, I got a great suggestion for you. Tony, first-rate person, Tony, you'd really hit it off. And Blair's quite a personable person. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's
he's
smooth. He's
very,
really
very smooth. I mean,
we George and I will date ourselves,
yeah, no,
but
no, he was
remember when he became Prime Minister, Cool
cool
Britannia? Remember?
Britannia, yeah, yeah. Which was invented. The whole concept was invented by Mandelson. Brilliant. He was a brilliant salesman,
But he
Mandelson.
just got the boot.
He just got the boot. That's right. So, but you see, they said here this meeting took place in August, so it's probably this is still lingering from Mandelson era. But yeah, he's got the boot.
Yeah, but what's interesting, I think the reason why someone like Steve Witkoff would buy into this is that again, and I think George and I are essentially alone in this interpretation, is just another attempt to farm off an intractable problem. Okay, so they farm it off to Tony Blair, to the UN or Arab nations. See, Trump wants to escape any kind of culpability for this. Okay, but then we'll still stand arms. Okay, it's
Right, but in this case, he isn't gonna. He can't even in public wash his hands of it because he's identified himself so completely
that's why I think
with,
he's
with
groping.
Netanyahu.
He's groping in the dark. Okay,
Right. So I think
extremely clean.
he can't do this. I mean, I think that this whole thing, I think it's just a fantasy because there's
I
no way at
agree.
all Israel is going to sign off, even on what that plan that we spelled out, in the earlier slide according to Axios. I mean, leave aside the New York Declaration. I mean, just in terms of that, Israel is not going to agree just to withdraw
Well, did you
Gaza.
see the series The Man in the High Castle?
No.
Okay, it's an alternative history. It's when the Nazis win, defeat the United States, and it's about Nazi America. And it's an even within the series, they tell you this is an alternative because the reality that we know, the history we know, it's complicated. It's interesting, but this is the same thing. They're creating a reality on their own, as if, they can detach themselves from the material facts on the ground. And I'm sorry, George, somebody's making money off of this.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The plans could see Blair head this Gita. And so now The Economist is on this Israeli media. It would seek a UN mandate to be Gaza's supreme political and legal authority for 5 years. And then the
Yeah.
plan,
What standing does anybody have to give Tony Blair the right to be supreme leader?
well,
What's the legal standing?
there's no
Is
legal
it the
standing.
UN sanctioned?
Well, that's the thing, and that's where the point is now. I mean, in theory, the UN could create such an institution. The UN Security Council could do anything, um, but the UN Security Council won't do it unless the United States signs off on it. And the United States doesn't sign off on anything without consulting Bibi, and that's why the whole thing has this fantasy air. Yeah, of course this could happen. but
Yeah,
before anything like
that's
this
why I brought up the
happened,
analogy of the man in the high castle. Yeah,
right,
this is a possible
right. But
trajectory.
but
Yeah.
but unless the United States actually tells Israel that this is the way it's going to be, and you have to get with the program, then it's not going to happen. And there's no evidence whatever that Trump has the slightest inclination to do this. That of all
All
presidents,
the more
he's
so.
the least likely to lay the law down to Israel.
George is absolutely right about this because if this is something they thought was even feasible, Trump would be leading the parade. Okay, he's not.
Okay.
Okay, this is. I mean, we're learning about this through foreign media, not through American media.
Yes. Um, and then the plan would be modeled on the international administrations that oversaw East Timor and Kosovo's transition to statehood. But the thing about the Kosovo and East Timor is that, yeah, they absolutely forced this on Serbia. In the case of Serbia, they absolutely, rammed it down Serbia's throat. They bombed Serbia, and then they stole Kosovo from Serbia. East Timor, the United States laid the law down to Indonesia. They just said, that's it. Indonesia needs to leave East Timor. That's it. That was in the Clinton administration. Indonesia left East Timor in the United States, but that has to happen first. There has to be a forcible seizure of territory before you can get in with all these plans. There's nothing like that here. Oh, it's the model. Oh, we're going to have a model like we did in Kosovo. Yeah. Um, so anyway, reports of discussions about these involvement in a transitional authority for Gaza come after President Mahmoud Abbas said on Thursday that he was ready to work with Trump and other world leaders to implement a two-state peace plan, which Trump has not said that he's ready to do. Abbas stresses rejection of a future governing role for Hamas and so on. So that's the Trump plan, and there's no mention um, anywhere, from Trump is, hey, is this your plan? How's this plan going? You know, is Bibi going to accept your plan? And what pressure are you going to apply to Bibi? No one ever asks that question. They're always asking, what are you going to do to Putin? I mean, when are you going to start imposing sanctions on Putin? When are you going to impose tariffs? When are the secondary tariffs coming in? When are you going to start shooting down Russian planes? But no one ever says anything. When are you going to start applying any pressure on Bibi?
It's all too surreal for me. I mean, you throw in Tony Blair, okay? I mean, again, this is just illusory. I mean,
Yeah, I thought it
I
was
get, the thing is, George, is that, you and I have talked about it a lot, even offline, is, there's just no seriousness to these people. They're just not serious people.
right.
And,
I,
my instinct is that, oh, this is just another media rollout, another plan. And things just continue on the ground until they come up with another
right.
plan and another. Who do we have? Maybe we'll get Angela Merkel out. Juan Guaido has time. Okay, I mean, how are they gonna keep? They just keep rolling these
Right.
things out. You
Right.
know, very serious discussions in Doha about
Yeah.
negotiations. And boom. This is all.
Tony
This is
Blair has
all.
kind of
This is a theater. It's theater.
but Tony Blair, he's kind of made a lot of money in the Middle East, particularly with these Gulf states. I think they thought about, hey, he has some standing in the Gulf because he's made a lot of money in the Gulf. I'm sure that somehow Peter Mandelson kind of put in this good word for him, and that's that. How did Peter Mandelson get that job as ambassador to the U.S.? I'm sure Tony Blair put in a good word for him with Keir Starmer, and Starmer appointed him to that. So that it's like one hand washes the other. So now he's going to do that.
What do you think, George? I mean, the sitting prime ministers, they take calls from Tony Blair?
Um, he maybe. Blair has a certain. He has been a successful prime minister.
Yeah.
Starmer, it's very far from clear that
Yeah, but
Starmer's
I
going to be a
mean,
successful prime
but at
minister.
the same time, he's kind of the Darth Vader
Yes.
of British politics as
Yeah,
well.
that is true. However, Starmer is the beneficiary of kind of the Blairite Labour Party. I mean, the Labour Party is it's a completely different
Yeah.
party from what he was, and it was Tony Blair who kind of created the modern Labour Party.
Well,
And
you
so,
could even say, in many respects, a modern Democratic Party in America.
yeah,
Very much, followed him, copied him in many ways.
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why we see collusion between Labor and the Democrats to this day. It's
yeah.
longstanding.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm still go back to the question. So we have here Monday morning, I mean Friday morning, Netanyahu's kind of finished his United Nations address. How come he can't just simply go to Washington, have his meeting with Trump, be back in Israel by dinner time? I mean, I don't quite know why he
Well,
needs to hang out till Monday.
at all this Charlie Kirk stuff and media assets and all this TikTok story. I mean, it's all enmeshed, and I think that has to go in and shore up his assets in America
Yeah.
because to put it in perspective, George, over 2 years ago. Israel wasn't talked about the way it is in even in Western media like it is now. This is a sea change that is something I never could have imagined, okay?
No.
Because the best bet, don't say anything at all, except for, the only democracy in the Middle East, and they share our values, The shift in discourse is truly astounding,
That's
truly astounding.
no, that's absolutely true. And I think that the Charlie Kirk thing was a particularly problematic for the Israel lobby because this is really their core. They know that they've lost the left. That the left has always had a very ambiguous or ambivalent rather feelings about
They'll take the money,
Israel.
but they're ambivalent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're ambivalent. They've always been divided. Yeah, they have all these people in Congress, but within the party, there was a lot of unhappiness within Israel, for many years. But the right, they absolutely had the right locked up. And what's happened on the right, that's a real problem. And okay, they can lose Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, fine. They can lose Matt Gaetz, okay, fine. Or quirky people like Thomas Massey, fine. But when you have young people, this is Charlie Kirk's constituency, when they start turning against Israel, then they're in real trouble because now they can suddenly say, "Hey, this is our most solid constituency in the United States. If we lose that, then we're close to that perilous moment which Israel has always dreaded, when the United States might just simply say, "We've had it. Sorry, the way you just can't play us like this any longer."
Well, all the more
It's
so.
always dreaded that moment might come.
People are punished for their views in the United States, severely punished, particularly on this issue. But when you have people like Candace Owen and you have Tucker Carlson and the people like that, Glenn Greenwald, um, collectively
Right, right,
they impact the discourse.
right.
Collectively, they do.
But
And this is news for tens of millions of Americans that have been given, Leon Uris's
right,
interpretation.
but why I think the Charlie Kirk thing was
Yeah,
particularly problematic. See, Glenn Greenwald, he's kind of on the left, or he's seen to be on the left. He's not really, but he's
yeah,
seen to
yeah,
be
yeah,
on the
yeah.
left. Aaron Mate, okay, he's kind of on the left. Max Blumenthal, kind of vaguely on the left. They can live with that. But losing the right, that's a serious problem because that's the most solid, absolutely rock ribbed Israel lobby that there is, and that's why all these people like Bill Ackman and Shillman, this Robert Shillman, and this
What a great name. What a
it
great
really
name.
is.
Too.
And,
Yeah.
the Andreessen Horowitz. I mean, these are billionaires. I mean, they're a very sinister force. I mean, and that's why they leaned on Charlie Kirk so much. They took it very seriously that Charlie Kirk wasn't playing ball with them. I mean, that's why I applied so much pressure on him. It wasn't just that, oh well, okay, you know, let him have fun. No, 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 no. You don't give a platform to Dave Smith. You don't give a platform to Tucker Carlson. You don't have Marjorie Taylor Greene taking part in a debate on Israel at Turning Point. That they took that very seriously, and they obviously applied a lot of pressure against Charlie Kirk in the days leading up to his death. I'm not saying that has anything to do with his death, but in the
We're
days
not making a connection here. We're not
exactly in
making
the
a connection.
days leading up to it, which is why when Netanyahu just came up within minutes of his death saying he was the greatest friend Israel ever had, and somehow it really raised questions about everything because he obviously wasn't the greatest friend Israel ever had because precisely because of the immediate history of his last days on earth.
Yes, when you lose the right and particularly the youth, the entire lobbies project in the United States is an open question. And that's so to answer George's question, that's why BB is staying for the weekend. Okay. He's shoring up his assets.
That's
Okay. And his assets, particularly on the right.
right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
know. The genie's out of the bottle. The genie's out. Okay. The amazing reporting from people like Max Blumenthal, which I found fascinating. Okay. I didn't know it's like so many things. You have an inclination about what's going on, but getting facts out there in print, that was eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I didn't know any of that. It was just fascinating that precisely what he disclosed about
Well,
that.
we all knew that Turning Point USA was to some degree, and I'll let others, say to a great degree, to a limited degree, whatever. It was a Zionist project for sure.
Well, I mean, yes, there was a lot of money coming in from these Zionist billionaires, but I mean, I imagine what it was is that Charlie Kirk, he accepted the main
Yeah,
lines of the contemporary right. The contemporary right is with Israel, but suddenly he found there's a kind of grassroots anger towards Israel, and they were asking questions that you couldn't answer, which is, I thought we're supposed to be America first. Since when have we become Israel first? He didn't know the answer to that question. I mean, nobody knows the answer to that question.
well, he knew the answer. He just didn't know how to square the circle.
Well,
That
but you have to be fair to him. He did provide a platform to critics of Israel, and he had Turning Point. He had Dave Smith there, and he had Tucker Carlson. He knew perfectly well what Tucker Carlson was going to say when in his address, and he got attacked. Charlie Kirk got attacked for providing a platform to Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. And so this is what's happening among young people who are showing up for his conferences. And so you have the Shulman withdrew money from Turning Point. You say that's a lot of money. That's serious money when Shulman does it. And these people like Bill Ackman, he uses money in the most brutal, ruthless way on behalf of Israel. I mean, he threatened to withdraw his money. Was it either from Harvard? Was it Harvard that I think he threatened to withdraw, or was it Columbia? I think it was Harvard, um, because of Israel. So these are very dark forces in American
a
society.
malign force.
Yeah,
Okay, and we're much more aware of it with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Unfortunately, that that the cause and effect now that we know so much more about him. Again, George and I are not making any claims about the assassination itself, except for it doesn't make any sense, but we'll
no,
talk about it
no, no,
another time.
exactly, exactly. And I think that no, no, no. I mean, when Netanyahu twice
Yeah.
denies that Israel had anything to do with this assassination, that's kind of a head scratcher. It's like that's the worst thing you can ever do is to say I didn't murder that person. You say no one had accused you of murdering that person, but the moment you say
Who,
that,
who does that? Who does that? Okay. And then, we have ongoing events. We have the flotilla getting ever so close. and the Spanish and the Italian navies getting
Yeah.
into the fray. Wow, um, Trump's worst major concern, it seems, because he said it so many times, is that Israel's reputation is taking a battering. I mean, it's so interesting seeing all these things at the same time. He's worried about Israel's reputation.
Right. Right. Yep.
That's the least of my concerns.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Anyway, absolutely fascinating. It is Gaza Largo.
Yeah.
Gaza Largo.
The Trump,
This
the
is what.
Trump, the Trump plan. The
Yeah.
Trump,
I
Trump,
mean,
the Trump
again,
Blair plan.
I'm going to have I have some bubbly cooling in the refrigerator, and I will be mocking the very thought of Tony Blair coming back on the scene. I mean, I don't know. I remember his reign. And who was it? Brown. What was his name?
Gordon Brown.
Yeah.
Gordon Brown. He was the. Then they,
Gordon Brown, he got shafted.
yeah, he got, and then they swapped.
Shafted.
They swapped jobs. Yeah. Yeah.
He
That's
got shafted. But
yeah.
you said after 10 years it'd be a transition, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
went to shit.
Right, right. Yeah, that's what I got. That's well. Anyway, he left after 10 years. It was unfortunate that Brown, um, he didn't have much time, and then he lost the election. I mean, the thing about Blair, he won elections, and
Yeah,
ultimately that's the measure
we're
of
not
politicians.
denying his
Yeah,
political acumen. I'm not denying
yeah.
that. Okay, he's in that category of evil genius.
Right.
Like
No, exactly, exactly. He won. He won 97, 2001, 2005. He won that 2005 election after the invasion of Iraq. So so even after that, a lot of people thought, oh, this is it. He's going to pay a heavy price. He didn't pay any price for that. So in subsequent years, he's kind of paid a price in his reputation, but electorally, he had a magic touch. He won three elections.
absolutely. It's very interesting how he glommed onto Clinton and then to George W. Bush
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
seamlessly, seamlessly. It's
Yes.
amazing. No, I've never doubted his political abilities. I mean, he is the greatest politician of his generation. No doubt about that. I mean, look at everybody that's followed him.
Yes.
I mean, I just think, for the next prime minister there should just be a raffle among taxi drivers. You can't do any worse than the crowd that's been. I'm serious. Just get all the taxi drivers. Doesn't matter, where you were born or anything. Become prime minister. Play our
Yeah,
raffle.
yeah.
I think you'd get somebody better.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of it, as the succession with Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss. What was the name of the Indian? I've forgotten the name of the Indian guy.
We don't even remember because he's irrelevant.
Yeah,
The billionaire
Indian
guy, the
guy.
billionaire guy.
Yeah, exactly the billionaire hedge fund Indian guy. Yeah, and then Starmer. Yeah, that was boy. That's kind of a list of
Look,
mediocrities.
George and I, we keep a pretty close eye on these things here. I don't even remember the guy's name.
Like, yeah. It'll come to me. It's like like you came up with Loretta Lynch. You remember from the previous video. So yeah, it'll come to
Oh, I
me.
redeemed myself
It's
on
like
that.
the Indian guy.
It wasn't that long
It
ago,
wasn't
George.
that long ago. Yeah, it was so undistinguished. So-
Yeah, here's this Indian billionaire.
that's right. Yeah,
Um, 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 uh,
and because it was also
his big thing was Ukraine.
that's right. Yeah, but it was another one of these interesting things where he becomes prime minister without actually having won an election. I mean, it was like one prime minister after another who actually never really won an election, but he just, oh well, I'm prime minister now. We're not going to bother having an election to decide whether people actually want you to be prime minister. Okay, well now I'm prime minister. So after Johnson at least won an election, but then Liz Truss, she never, never stood in any election. Then it was the Indian guy.
Well, we're going to get mocked for that.
There we are.
Okay, and the horizon, there's no hope on the
No,
horizon
I don't think so. No.
because we know that the next prime minister will be someone of amazing mediocrity.
Yeah,
Okay, because that's the only thing that these parties develop is
yeah,
mediocre people. That's why they're in politics. They can't do anything else.
yeah.
Okay. It's just like Chuck Schumer. He's never had a job in his life. He's never worked.
Yes. That is that's an example of that's the professional politician. I mean, Biden was the same thing. I mean, it's like the professional politician. You start at a very early age, and that's all you've ever done. You just the professional politician. It's just
And look what
kind of
happened.
amazing. Just
Look what
to
happened to
devote your
him and
whole
the
life to
country.
that.
Look what happened to him, the country, and the world.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
need a new paradigm.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was Fantasy Hour for the Gaza's future. It's certainly a lot better in many ways than its current state, but that wasn't resolved in this
Yep.
great plan, George.
Nope, no, I don't think so. No, I think it's so. But so we're in the midst of the plan. We've got the New York plan, and then we've got the Trump plan, and neither plan has the slightest chance of success because Bibi has already said, "I have no interest in any of that."
But
And
there is a plan that is viable. But it came up. It was the idea came to us decades ago. Two-state solution.
right, well, that
And I'm just on the last point here. So Britain and France, Australia, Canada, you recognize the Palestinian state. Well, good for you. Now, what are you going to do about it?
right,
What are you going to do about it? You cowards,
yeah, well,
cowards.
right. Interesting. I mean, we'll have to find out subsequently as to who walked out. Did the French, the Canadians, and the Australian delegations did they walk out, or did they stay? So I just wonder,
Well,
which
I would
which
be
delegations
interested.
walked out.
I wonder if the Russian delegation stayed
I
because
think I just
I
don't.
think they
That's not
did,
the yeah. The Russian. It's
and
not
I
the
just
Russian style. Yeah.
the reason why I mention it is it's just basically Russian statecraft. At the United Nations, everybody is allowed to speak, even Netanyahu, and they
Yeah.
probably say
Yeah.
out of professional protocol, not for the guest.
Yep.
Okay, for the individual. Okay, but
No.
I remember that shift because Gromyko used to always walk out when the Americans spoke. They always walked out. Okay, and then when Shevardnadze became foreign minister, he said, "No, we're all going to sit. We're all going to sit and we're going to listen to everybody." And that, as far as I know, that tradition has prevailed to this
Yes.
day.
Yeah, no, I mean the ones, but I mean Russia has cordial relations with Israel. I mean it's so they maintain cordial ties. So it just wouldn't it wouldn't be in keeping with Russia's relationship with Israel for Russia to walk out on Netanyahu's speech. So I'm quite sure Russia stayed, but I'm kind of curious about the European delegate, those European states that have now recognized Palestine. Did they walk out, or did they still maintain? I mean, a lot of people walked out. I mean, that looked
Well,
awfully
I mean,
empty
also,
hall.
but there's another layer here. I mean, the countries that did stay, who was it? Was it the junior adjunct assistant,
Well, yeah, I know, but at least
of
they stayed. I mean,
protocol?
even if it's somebody very junior, at least they stayed. There's the name tag is still there. That they stayed. There's a question of who's there where there's a sort of an empty name tag there that they're gone. I mean, I saw like who wasn't there. Kyrgyzstan wasn't there. Lebanon, but that's what you would say. But I didn't see all of the all of the empty seats.
We did see one member of one delegation take a picture of the empty chair. Okay, I'm sure that's all over social media right now. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
but again, the shame on I mean, recognizing a state that cannot possibly come into existence under these
All right.
circumstances. All right, everybody, this is The Goggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegoggle.locals.com. This is our Friday wrap. George and I will reconvene for what usually turns into a marathon on Sunday these days, okay? And I was out for most of this week, but I will do everything in my power. I can 100% say I'll be for the live stream on Monday.
Excellent. And now it's very difficult because now Buddy says, "Yeah, I'm walking. I'm walking out."
Walking out on all
Apple says,
fours.
"Yeah,
And on all fours.
exactly. I'm walking out. I've had it. Just not putting up with this anymore. There's we work a year and a day. Trying to do something here, and then we don't get any reward. So we're walking." and, in protest. And they want to be photographed as they're walking out. So in order to get them back in, please, anything you've got, gold coins and big wads of $100 bills, everything into that tip
Well,
jar.
it's only Benjamins, just the
I mean,
Benjamins.
the big thick things. You go, oh, that's nice. Just stuff it
What we
right.
used to call in a day in the day a wad.
A what exactly? What are these bills? A fistful of dollars, straight in there. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and maybe we can get the dogs back in. Even they'll march back in. Their protest noted and now over. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.